All right, it's the Pete Sousa Show, live at the Alico building. It is warm in here inside the Rogue Media Studios. Cam likes to call it the Colt Brennan Memorial Studio. I guess we'll ride with that for a little while. We are presented by Slovacic's Crawford Austin Properties, and like to thank D1. Of course, we had Chris Platt from D1 here yesterday, former Baylor star. You can check that out. That's up on the YouTube. We also have a great conversation Scotty and I have about whether or not Kim Mulkey will return for Brittany Griner's Texas Sports Hall of Fame induction. I don't think anybody thinks she will. No. I talked to someone last night who said, no way, Jose. But it's a great time to be a sports fan. Baylor taking on St. John's tonight at 6 o'clock. They're in the Bahamas, and we are all over it. Cam Stewart's going to be with us in the last segment to go over that. Dan Ingham's going to check in with us in about 15 minutes, talk to you about the Big 12, the Dallas Cowboys, and give us a couple of locks going into the weekend. I want to start by talking – honestly, I want to start by talking about this documentary I watched. It was about this woman called Guru Jagat. And it seemed like everybody in the video was speaking with vocal fry. Like all the people would be like, Guru Jagat. It was Guru Jagat. And she was all over like Instagram. And basically what it was, she had this yoga practice that she inherited from this other guy who was basically a grifter. This guy comes to America from India, and the moment he touches down on American soil, he basically comes to America, as rumored in the documentary called Breath of Fire on HBO, because he was on the run from either like shadowy figures or law enforcement. And the moment he gets to America, we're so smart here and have such an open mind as Americans that we see a guy from India touch down in America and think that he must be a yogi expert. So this guy becomes a yogi expert, does awful things to people, steals a lot of money from people. And then this young American woman who was a drug addict and couldn't stop using drugs, gets off drugs, and yoga's a big reason she gets off drugs. And then she does the same thing that this guy did because she inherits his brand of yoga and also his brand of deception. It is like, I'm talking about it, right? And it was a day later. The reason I'm talking about it is because last night, I mean, it's a documentary. I'm not spoiling the ending, but the woman dies, has a pulmonary embolism. So now I'm feeling bad for this Guru Jagat who stole money from everybody. So it's a real emotional roller coaster, but I loved it. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. 4 episodes, about 50 minutes apiece. I can do that, right? So that was great. Looking forward to Baylor's game tonight. I did a Baylor volleyball game last night. Baylor volleyball, they may host, by the way. They're ranked 17th in the country, and they had a big win last night against Texas Tech. Big loss for the world of social media, maybe. LeBron James is taking a break, and I've been thinking about this, and there's context to it. You know, Rich Kleiman, who is like all things Kevin Durant. By the way, you like my Waco hi-hat? Representing. So Rich Kleiman, who is Kevin Durant's manager, all things Kevin Durant. So this was on October 24th, okay? On October 24th, Rich Kleiman tweeted, "With so much hate and negativity in the world today, it confuses me why some of the national sports media still think that the best way to cover sports is through negative takes. We can all acknowledge that sports is the last part of society that universally brings us together. So why can't the coverage do the same? It's only clickbait when you say it. When the platform is so big, you can make the change and allow us all an escape from real life negativity. I, for one, find it all a waste of breath. The Olympics and JJ and Bron's show was the future of what this can be and should all be." Okay, so, you know, I like the sentiment, like, let's stay positive. It's sports. We're in the toy department. There is something to be said for that. Is there too much negativity in the world? Absolutely. There's something to be said for that, right? Like, I think we can all confirm, if you go on Twitter, you're sort of like diving headfirst into a cesspool willingly. At that point, it's not so much about people or sports, it's about society. So I don't think there's any way you can run and hide from the negativity. LeBron James takes a screenshot of that. And Scotty, let's call up. First of all, LeBron James takes a screenshot of that and retweets it and just puts amen, Rich Kleiman. All right, so here is LeBron James's tweet. And that's exactly, okay, that's, so can you read that, Scotty? I don't have my glasses.
LeBron tweeted, and with that said, I'll holla at y'all. Getting off social media for the time being. Y'all take care.
Okay. So that is, okay. So, and again, I'm a huge LeBron fan. I mean, like, he brings me to the television set, the game, the phone, whatever, however you're watching games, like, he brings me there. I've had a front row seat with LeBron. He's been in my life, right, since all of our lives, since he's like 14 years old. I love LeBron. This tweet, can you pull that back up, Scotty? Because we got to look at this. You ever get a tweet from like an angry woman, or like a woman? Maybe you get it from an angry man, right, in a relationship. Like, this is it. Like, when people start going emojis and like the peace.
I was gonna say the peace out and the king emoji. Add to it. Big
like, that's just like LeBron. You're LeBron. Like, you're LeBron James. Like, what's going on over there? You know, like, I don't understand it. And I want to dive further into it. Like, LeBron is out there in so many ways. And I do understand what Rich Kleiman is saying, in a sense where, like, you know, we have the power, or they have the power, speaking of athletes, to take back their brand, to filter the content that they want through the medium that they want to put it through. The message, or the medium, is the message, right? Like, that's an old school saying that still applies today. And it's very obvious that, like, there's a stranglehold on some spaces now in the world of media by athletes. And I think that's awesome. I love that. I enjoy it. I don't think that anybody should be getting into somebody's personal life unless it affects their play on the floor. I'll give you an example before we get back to this. It was brought to my attention while getting ready for that Inside the 12 show that Chris Kleiman, the head coach of Kansas State's football team, is having like personal issues. Like, he's been he's hinted at such, saying that he has issues off the football field, that things are going on outside of his control. And then you do a deep dive, like, if you're me, because you just want to know. And, it turns out that someone that is very close to Kansas State was on a podcast talking about how it's an issue with family, and it's not Chris Kleiman's family immediately, but it's someone in his circle. And I really appreciated how this podcast host dispensed the information. It was basically like, look, we know there's something going on. I think the guy knew what was happening, but it wasn't really our business as to what it was. I don't think anyone is out there, anyone of reputation, right, is out there really blasting these guys negatively. And this goes back to Chris Kleiman, or Rich Kleiman. Wow, it's funny. We got a couple Kleimans here. Rich Kleiman talks about, with so much hate and negativity in the world today, it confuses me. He's basically talking about national media, First Take, all that stuff. Look, at the end of the day, when you go out and you have a bad game and you play terribly, we're fanatics. We're fans. Like, if you're LeBron, you can leave social media. Like, we have a job to do. Like, as the media, when I'm here talking to you guys in this forum, I want to have fun. I really want to almost do stream of consciousness of what I feel and what I'm thinking based on my experience being around sports, covering sports, being a part of it, right? Like, but I try to stay positive. At the same time, there are certain things like Joel Embiid getting called out by Tyrese Maxey, that if they get leaked to the media, that's super interesting. It's affecting my favorite team's play. Like, he got called out by the other best player on the team, who everybody loves and has a great reputation for working hard and hustling. This is all now. Joel Embiid isn't showing up for work, or when he is, he's not in shape, or when he is, he's late. That affects the Sixers. That's interesting. Like it or not, like, we're going to talk about that. In any walk of life where people have a vested interest, these pro sports teams, like them or not, they're public trusts. They really are. Like, there's so much that society loves about sports, and there's so much communal about sports that moves societies in the right direction. If your team is winning, it, like Rich Kleiman says in this tweet, it brings out the best in us, right? It's a distraction. At the same time, if your team sucks, you're going to hear about it. Just like you heard about it in 1970 when a team sucked back then. You just heard it in different ways. I mean, the beat writers back then were out drinking with the players, and even they knew the code, right? You don't say what you know about someone's personal life until it starts to affect their play on the floor. And then you can say, well, Scotty Swingler played this afternoon like he may have been out all night last night partying in New York City, but you still can't say like you think, you know what I mean? Like, you can only kind of hint at that. Sorry, Scotty, you had a late night last night and you scored 4 points today. By the way, great Lou Williams story. Lou Will told it. I saw this. He was on a podcast. So, and I worked with Lou when I was with the Sixers. He was really young at the time. Wasn't even 21, but he has a story where the Clippers were on the road. They go to New York City. Lou Williams stays out all night long, to the point where Lou was pretty, I can tell you from my experience with him, he was like a good guy. He was not like a party animal, but that's what the Knicks would do to you too. Like, they would take these teams and, you come from LA, or maybe you're on an East Coast road trip and you play on a Sunday noon in New York City. Like, literally, teams have tried to have that like stopped I remember Isaiah Thomas, they used to use that as an advantage to say, schedule as many noon Sunday games as you can. Lou Williams falls victim, is out all night long, shows up at the arena, and he's literally talking to himself as he's getting ready to go in the game. And he's like, I'm still drunk. Like, so Doc Rivers puts him in the game. He turns the ball over twice immediately. And Lou Will says, look, I thought to myself, I'm either going to play all game long and people are going to think I'm drunk or think I'm terrible, or I can just own it. I can go over to Doc Rivers right now and be like, look, I messed up. So he goes over to Doc and he says, hey, I was out all night long. Like, you got to take me out. Like, I'm not equipped to play. Fine me, suspend me. Doc goes, you're staying in the fucking game. Sweat it out. I'm going to need you in the fourth quarter. And lo and behold, as the story goes, told by Lou Williams, Lou Will scores 25 in the fourth quarter alone. And I think the Clippers end up winning the game. And that's Doc Rivers, right, with experiences, knowing much more than we know. But I got off on a tangent there. Back to LeBron and the checking out on social media. Like, he's just as much a part of this as we are. I mean, he has so many different ways in which he contributes to the social media space, to the pop culture space, to the programming space. And I don't think anybody is asking to dig into the crate and find out what's going on in LeBron's life. Look, a lot of people might say LeBron is not the Boy Scout he portrays himself to be, but that's none of our business anyways. Like, and we don't know any of that. So if LeBron wants to remove himself from social media, that's all well and good. I totally understand that. I need to get off social media. Like, there's not, but like with the emojis and the peace and I'll hit you later, like, and then he retweets what Rich Kleiman said about the Olympics and JJ and Bron's show, the future of what this should all be. It's like, no, dude, there's got to be accountability. There has to be writers and people that cover the sport that hold these guys accountable, because at the end of the day, Joe Public is going to pay money that he doesn't have on his kid's birthday to treat him to see his favorite players in the world play in the NBA. And now it seems like there's a 50-50 chance that these dudes might not play. Like there needs to be the negativity out there. Sometimes, unfortunately, has substance to it, and it always has had substance to it. Back when I was a kid, reading Phil Jackson in the Philadelphia Daily News, or Phil Jasner, and that's just the way it should be, as far as I'm concerned. Scotty, go ahead. Disagree? Agree?
I agree with you in the big picture of this. I think I disagree in that, like, all the criticisms directed at LeBron are not accountability most of the time. So you brought up players not playing. LeBron is not one of those players that sits out and does load management.
And he's not Joel Embiid.
No. I wonder, too, how much of this is what people are saying about Bronny, right? And the negativity maybe towards him.
Clearly it is. And you bring up a great point. It is. And I've gone on this show, not like we're moving the major needle here, but people watch, listen, consume it. And I have said that I love what LeBron did with Bronny. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's like
awesome.
That I don't have an issue with that. And people that do have an issue with that, they're kind of entitled to that, because, like, I mean, Bill Maher was talking about it on Real Time. I mean, like, agree, disagree, whatever, like, it's spilled over to, is this like an meritocracy almost in a different way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's certainly compelling discussion. I mean, at the end of the day, a second round pick for the LA Lakers and Bronny's last roster spot really doesn't mean anything.
No.
And if a guy is scratching and clawing and is getting, like, I'm not even of the school of thought, like, oh, like he's taking a spot away from somebody else. I just don't believe that.
Well, he's not. He's in the G League now for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, because somebody else does deserve that spot at this point.
Yeah, but right? I cut you off. You were saying about.
No, I think your broader point is valid. I am a notable LeBron defender most of the time.
Yeah,
I think.
Me too.
I think he gets so much flack because people make the Jordan comparison. He gets so much flack because he was a superstar from such a young age. And at the end of the day, like, you're right. We don't know a lot about his personal life, and that's okay. But we know he's only ever been married once. He's like a good dad.
Dude, as far as we know, he's never gotten a speeding ticket, which I think is really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and so, if he wants to be a little sassy getting off social, it doesn't bother me.
No. Yeah.
I got off social media recently for my own stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's a good thing.
It is a good thing, but I just don't like, there's that's quite the blanket to cast over the negativity. And it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Like, I think we can all agree, like, the debate shows and all that crap. And honestly, that's part of the issue, is that, and this is, I know this, and probably people in this room know this, like, those players do watch First Take.
Yeah.
Like, that's on in the facility. Like, if there's one piece of content they consume, it is First Take, which is kind of like hilarious.
Well, and what First Take has done over the last 15 years, and we all know this in this room again, is you've sensationalized coverage to where it's no longer objective. It's all about who can have the hottest take, get the viral 1 minute clip that's going to blow up and get you clicks and views.
Well, no, then look, I mentioned it yesterday. I was watching, like, Joey Galloway has this take, and Joey Galloway.
My gosh, this is so bad.
Did you hear this?
You told me this earlier.
Joey Galloway works for ESPN. So do I. Like, Joey Galloway's a legend, whatever. But, like, he has this take now that Indiana's quarterback should be sat out for this game, the biggest game in program history, maybe ever, against Ohio State, for fear that if he were to get hurt, like Florida State's quarterback did last year, that Florida State would get left, or that Indiana would get left out of the playoff. Like, it was like, and they talked about it. He and Reese Davis talked about it for like 25 minutes. And I was conflicted. I was like, from one perspective, good for Joey Galloway. It's an interesting creative take. He probably thought about it and feels some kind of way about it. But to exhaust it to that degree, I was like, well, this is kind of weird.
Dude, I give Joey Galloway a lot of love because he had a stint with the Dallas Cowboys. But that is a horrible take, especially for an ex-athlete, to suggest that. I mean, Curtis Rourke's the Indiana quarterback. He is playing out of his mind this season. He's quietly having one of the best seasons in college football right now. And to suggest he shouldn't play in the biggest game, right? What we all said in here when you brought that up earlier was like, or he could play and win.
Yes.
Like, he could go out there and lead. Can you imagine if Indiana beats Ohio State Saturday? Like, why in the world would any competitor sit that out? It's asinine.
And Joey, by the way, Joey Galloway, he's like smart. He's kind of slick. He presents a good argument. Like,
no, but that's insane.
Yeah.
Though.
Last night, Reese was like, "Well, what about their culture at Indiana?" And Joe Galloway was like, "What culture? They don't have culture. They're building one now." He's like,
right. So the culture you should not build is sit out the biggest game of the freaking season.
Yeah.
Because you're scared of a committee implicating. Oh my gosh.
All right.
It makes me mad.
Somebody who's not sitting out today is Dan Ingham. He's sitting in the big chair. He's coming up next. First National Bank of Central Texas. Let's get that right. They pay the bills. Dan Ingham is coming up next. I want to talk to Dan about the college football playoff, a little bit about the Cowboys. We can't talk about Oklahoma State. We'll probably talk hoops. Dan Ingham coming up.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.